Love it. All right, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're getting started right away because I want to be really respectful of everyone's time. It's close to the end of the day for folks on the East Coast. And I know on the West Coast, this may be in the middle of your hopefully not meeting filled Fridays. But really excited to have y'all here and so grateful and appreciative that you are closing the week with us and learning about what we're going to be doing for the next year. Um, and all right, so with that, we're going to be recording so that we can share out with the community later. But we're going to get started so that we can get through this. I know that y'all have maybe seen our names, seen our faces, but who are these people, these beautiful, lovely people that have been working on this annual plan for Techqueria? Let me introduce you to myself. My name is Jolie Cedeño. I am the executive director of Techqueria. What that means is I'm overseeing the direction and know-how of where Techqueria is going. I'm managing the team that works here at Techqueria. I am also uh, deciding on like supporting with partnerships, uh, deciding on operational things, basically doing all of the wearing a lot of hats on managing the organization as a whole, and always here as a support for y'all. And I want to pass the mic to one of my fellow team members, Alexis.
Hi everyone, it's really good to see familiar faces and to see new faces on here as well. My name is Alexis De Jesus. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Events for Techqueria. I've been with the organization since 2022. There's been a lot of great things happening, a lot of cleaning up, a lot of rebuilding and all this good stuff. So I'm really excited, especially now that there's a full team. And Jolise has been really great in this process of just really getting Techqueria down into the nitty-gritty of things and organizing on the back end. So as far as what I do with my role, I work with sponsors, community partners, and I help with events mainly in person, but I also organize national events. And even though these are our sole titles, we have a lot of in-between things that we do as a small team. So yeah, and that also includes it's inclusive of making sure our community is okay, making sure everything is running as smoothly as possible. So yeah, I also one of our teammates today is not able to make it. Her name is Valeria, but she's the partnerships engagement specialist. She assists me and Jolise and does a lot of the admin work as well. So she does everything from community partners to sponsorships as well. And she overall looks at the Slack community, making sure everything is okay there, and also is in charge of like admitting people within the Slack channel, which is really great. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it back to Jolise, but here to answer any questions as well, and really glad to see everyone as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alexis. And yeah, some of you may know also that Valeria is one of the chapter directors of the Bay Area. So y'all may have encountered her there. Also, my pronouns are she, her. Sorry for forgetting to add that. And really excited to kind of get going and let you all know on the process we did in order to come to this annual plan. So this came together after a lot of full day work sessions where we were kind of revisiting what has Techqueria done in the past, talking about what Techqueria can be doing moving forward. And for those of you all who don't know, I joined Techqueria essentially in September as the new executive director. And part of the things that I did was have a tour of talking to a lot of different people. So I met with most of our chapter directors. Anybody who was willing to have a one-on-one was more than welcome to put it on my calendar. I asked questions about how it's been going, what are things you want to see different, what are areas of concern, and I also spoke to our partners about this. I spoke to our board about this, and so with all of that input, we as a team, the three of us, talked about what's important about the next upcoming year for Techqueria, and how do we frame our goals in a way that's going to be best suited to put us in a place where not only are we laying the foundation, because uh, as Alexis alluded to, there's a lot of cleaning up and rebuilding that we're doing on this end. And so what we're doing is laying the foundation for something really strong. I'm actually gonna like steal a little saying from Alexis. We're like a beautiful Ferris wheel you see at the county fair. When you walk in, you see the lights and you're like, oh my God, that's so big and pretty, and I want to ride it, and it's so exciting. But as you get closer, you see that's being held up by 2x4s, and you're like, oh my God, that not maybe that doesn't quite work so well. And so what we're doing, we're like, all right, we want to make this a great fun ride for everybody. So we are laying the concrete and building the foundation so we are able to enjoy this together as a community and be safe. So shout out to Alexis for that analogy. And so what we did is we thought about what are our values as an organization, and we do have organizational values. So we rooted our next upcoming year for what our trajectory is going to be based on the Techqueria values. So here we go. So our 4 values at Techqueria, they're listed on our website. They're listed in a lot of different places, but if you don't know them already, the first is community first. As Latina people, we are very community oriented. It's about making sure that we are prioritizing the well-being and needs of our community as our primary focus. Second is transparency. This is part of the transparency work, being open about sharing information, decisions, and processes, because we want to make sure that the community is trusting of us and understanding in the decisions and directions we go in. 3 is radical inclusivity. We are not a monolith as a community, but we also represent a lot of intersections of identities, from gender to abilities to race to all kinds of things. We represent a lot of different areas. So we want to make sure that Techqueria is accessible and inclusive for all marginalized communities. And lastly is insights driven. You know, as an organization that was built by a lot of folks in tech, data is so important to us, and it helps us deliver really insightful decision making because we're basing it on core analysis of our community. So with that being said, those are the 4 tenets we followed in order to think about our annual plan. So first, with the community first tenet, we are looking to this year activate our community to increase engagement, both online and in local chapters through fundraising and support. That sounds like really vague, and you're like, really, Jolas, that's what y'all came up with? Promise, we're diving deep into this. So first is our gatherings. We want to organize regular community events, workshops, and meetups, both online and locally, so that we're fostering participation. So this means every current active chapter, we're hoping for it to be at least 1 event per quarter. And we're looking for ability to have different ways to connect through potentially our LinkedIn lives, potentially having not just potentially, but having our career fairs, having a lot of events virtually and in person so that we're connecting as a community. And then the second part is fundraising. You're going to hear this a lot throughout the session. Fundraising is a big portion because as of right now, Techqueria is basically just funded by partnerships with companies. And by not having a diverse fundraising strategy, it means we are at the helm of companies, which is not great, because that means that we are not self-sufficient as a community, and decisions that we make, we're worried about. Granted, I'm not worried about it because I'm happy to tell people about themselves in terms of if there's any issues going on with companies not acting right. But we want to make sure that we're not just reliant on companies for money, because as we see, look, layoffs have been happening all over the place. We're wanting to ensure that we have a strategic approach to gaining access to funds, from grants to foundations to maybe even government contracts. That way we're able to sustain ourselves as a community overall. So we're looking to increase community-driven initiatives, perhaps donation drives. We're thinking about membership programs. These are things that we would always include you in the conversation with along the line, but we want to give you a heads up that this is something we're thinking about. And we want to encourage volunteers and community members to take an active role in organizing and promoting events. Y'all do so much work and amazing work on a local level, and we want to encourage and support each of you as part of our team to be able to have the best events ever with local sponsorships. So we want to make sure that you all are able to access all those funds. So how are we measuring this? We're looking to have a better turnout rate at events, both in person and virtual. We're looking to, with our community partners. So our community partners, what's different between like corporate partners and community partners are usually local organizations that benefit the community. So we're talking about fellow nonprofits. So we're looking to at least have one co-hosted event with a community partner per quarter. That's inclusive of in-person and virtual. Um, if you all have never heard of the phrase net promoter score, this is basically like a score used in sales to see how happy are people with the service you provide. How likely are they to recommend you to other people? So we're looking to achieve a quarterly net promoter score of 20 or more. So this means that y'all will be getting surveys now and then to see how we're doing and how we can improve. And we're also looking to survey our partners, our corporate partners. So we want to make sure that our partners feel that that our community reaches that our community is involved in their pipeline process, and that they're telling us how far along are people who are applying from Techqueria going into their hiring process. Are they going through up until the third round? Are they getting fully hired? And so we're not getting that data currently from companies. And how are we supposed to know if we're doing well if they don't tell us? So we're ensuring that this upcoming year we are getting that information on a consistent basis. Radical inclusivity. So this is ensuring about how we're recognizing the intersectionality of our identities, and we're trying to be accessible and inclusive for all marginalized communities. So how do we address this here? One of the things we talked a lot about as a team is that while a lot of us represent a lot of different identities, from gender to sexuality to religious faith to racial identities, we don't know all the things that we don't know. So one of the things we're really looking to do is to do an audit to be able to learn what are the gaps in our programming and partnerships and figure out what the needs analysis are. I'm talking about, like, one of the things I kept hearing as feedback after the summit is like not having things available, like having ASL translators during the virtual sessions, or captions, or ensuring that that our language is accessible. And what I mean by that is, like, are we being mindful to make sure that we are sharing our pronouns on a regular basis, and that as and we're going through what is actually being shared by both us as a team and our language, that it's inclusive of everyone around. Another piece is, and this is pending on funding, because in order to hire people, you need money. We're hoping to hire additional staff members with expertise in areas where our organization faces challenges. And we're looking to prioritize D&I in all aspects of the organization, including hiring, partnerships, and programming. So what does that look like in terms of measuring success? So we're going to work with community partners to do an audit with hopefully a 75% response rate by Q2. So this is working with community partners like Out in Tech, Blacks in Tech, a lot of other organizations that feed into some of the other identities that are served by our folks, to give us feedback on, like, what we've been doing well and what are areas that are not doing well at Techqueria that we could do better at. Auditing our processes and events, are going to be reviewing what the gaps are, and specifically in accessibility and inclusion, so that we're able to develop a proper plan for FY25 of how we're going to address it. Whether it's that we've decided, okay, so we need to ensure that whatever kind of event we have, whether virtual or in person, we are ensuring that we have translators, not just as I said earlier, ASL, but translators in Spanish, translators in indigenous languages that are covered by a lot of our community. So these are things that we have to think about but plan for. So taking a pause, I'm really excited by seeing people share some of their identities that they represent in the chat. Thank you so much for that. let's move on to the next bit. And I know that I'm moving pretty quickly, but I do want to make sure that I'm getting through this so that I have time for you all to give feedback or have questions. So transparency. We want to streamline our systems and processes so we can best support our community and our stakeholders, which is inclusive of our staff, board, chapters, and partners. So what this looks like is that we want to make sure that no matter where you sit in the community, you understand who does what and why. There's accessible handbooks that outlines roles, responsibilities, and processes, so that if you ever have a question, or if you're ever interested in like supporting more or volunteering more, you know where to go to find the information, and that is a very clear laid out process for you. We want to have regular reporting mechanisms, such as like monthly or quarterly updates to keep everyone informed about Techqueria's progress. So as we are plotting out this annual plan, we want to make sure that we are keeping you all up to date on how we're doing on our goals. So we intend to have a community meeting at least 3 times this year. So this is the first one to tell y'all what we plan to do. We'll do a mid-year one to be like, hey, this is how far we've gotten and everything. And we'll do an end of year one to do a reflection of like, hey, this is how far we got. This is where else we got to go. And we're looking to foster open and honest communication within the organization so that everyone has a voice and feels heard. There's a lot of decision making that's going to be coming up this year that's going to be important towards like really talking about and thinking about the goals and the values of the organization. And we're going to need your input. So you'll hear from us and have more moments like this so that we can hear directly from you all, so that we can ensure that we as a community feel connected and supported to move in a direction we all feel confident in order to best support our community as a whole with resources. And I know that's really super vague right now, but I promise when we're talking about that, we're talking about like how where are we accepting money from? What does that look like? How are we setting up structures so that folks who are early in their career are able to get mentorship? For folks who are later in their career, are they able to connect and develop group support so that if they are first-time managers, they're able to connect with other folks who are much later on in their career? Are they able to provide mentorship back? And are they able to maybe found a company or move in a way? And how can Techqueria help make that happen? So these are the things that we are hoping to think about in the long term, but that starts with us building the foundation here. So we're going to build communication and transparency across chapters. Chapters are going to be having bi-monthly all hands meetings and bi-weekly asynchronous meetings so they can learn from each other what they're doing. There's going to be coordinated meetings with partners. These are our company partners, so that we know the health of the relationship, and are they coming through with the resources they said that they would for our community? Are they actually providing jobs that are attainable and accessible to our community? Are they hiring our people? We want to make sure that we develop a dashboard to showcase our financial health so that you all can check in and be like, yo, are we able to have really great things happen locally because the funds are coming in? If we need to fundraise, we're clear with you all on where that money goes. And then lastly, we want to make sure that our chapter directors and staff report high levels of satisfaction and support and ease in executing events. We as a national team want to make sure that everyone who we're supporting and doing these localized events are like, you know what? I volunteer with Techqueria, and they're really supportive in making sure that we have a successful event in place locally. So we want people to feel really excited and confident to work with us, no matter what level they're working with us in. Lastly, our insights-driven section. We want to make decisions based on a thorough analysis and understand from relevant data and observations. So we're talking about data analytics and tracking tools. What I really want y'all to understand is Techqueria is a young organization. We got our 501c3 in 2019. Then the pandemic hit, and folks were trying to, you know, keep it going with not a ton of support. It's always been like one or two people who've actually like been hired to work at Techqueria and doing the best with the tools that they have. So what we're doing right now as a team of 3 or 2.5, because Val is part-time, but she's not a half person, she's a whole person, and we love her. um, is we're seeing that there's all these platforms that were made across time that seemed cool at the time, but may not work for us anymore. So we want to streamline the services that we're doing and making sure that they're clear and straightforward. People are getting the reimbursements that they need on time. People know where to get the resources that they need on time. And you all have access to anything that you need from Techqueria in terms of like how to sign up for a community event, and being able to know even the most basic thing, how to donate to Techqueria. That hasn't been straightforward in a very long time. So the other thing is, like I said, we want to diversify our funds. We want to make sure that as a community, we dictate the direction of where we go and not our funders. So by having a diversified mix of funds is, yeah, we don't really promote at all to donate to us. So this is me saying, hey, you want to donate to us? Please do so. It's on a website. But we want to make sure that we're getting a mix of corporate grants, individual contributions, sponsorships, maybe event fundraising, and who knows what this can turn into moving forward, because we're thinking about like, how can we support our community after this year of foundation building, after this year of cleaning shop and making sure that everything works smoothly? How can we then grow from there? How are we going to support, you know, like making sure that folks have access to job training, access to professional development training, access to, you know, some of our folks who are undocumented, if there's any kind of supports in getting through the immigration process, if there's any supports in providing scholarships, like what are things we can do later on? Those are big picture things for later on in the like future. But right now we're building the foundation for us to get there. Lastly, we want to make sure, as I said, we want to work with people who are willing to invest in our organization based on the mission we have. We are very upfront about the fact that we are no tech for ICE. We are very upfront about the fact that if you are doing work that is against our community, this is why we vet every single one of our partners with you all, that if you are doing work that's not helpful to the health of our community, we are going to be open and honest and critical about that. And we are ensuring that companies know that when they are working with us, that is not going to stop. That if we see something to be critical about, we're going to do so, because we're part of what's important about the work we do is not just providing support and people being able to have access to job training and job support and being able to get a job, and having career development. It's also for us to be advocates for one another. You know, we are a very tight-knit community, and we do so by looking out for one another, despite whatever big three come in and say that they're shifting things in either way. We're seeing every day that companies, you know, acquire smaller companies, acquire things that we readily use. And so so part of a lot of this year will also be us doubling down on what our values are and standing 10 toes deep in what we believe in. And so we're going to talk about that as a team. Thank you, Oscar. See you soon. So we're going to support our measuring of success of this by having an up-to-date demographic data of our organization. One of the ways we're able to access grants, one of the ways we're able to access foundation money is by being able to report the impact that we have on our communities. So all the time we're being asked, okay, how many people do you have in this city? How many people do you have that are at managerial levels at this place? What are the different countries represented? And we have some of that data. But we want to make sure that it's going to be up to date from everyone, on moving forward. Sorry, I just realized we got the upgrade now hit. See, this is what I mean by we need to be up to date on all the things, because not all of our accounts have full Zoom capabilities. But we're gonna do this with the 9 minutes we have left. All right, so we're gonna have folks share their case for support. And this is for us to be able to tell stories of like the impact that Techqueria has. And also we want to make sure that we're gathering quarterly reports with the metrics, demographics, and outcomes for local chapters. Local chapters have been really asking for the ability to report on what's going on locally and know what they need to do to better support their local chapters through straight data. All right. So a lot of this has to do with building dashboards, making sure we have weekly engagement sessions, making sure that our team is well-versed on how to submit grants, having a reconciled financial account. This is big. Accounting is going to be big for us, at least by the end of Q1, and addressing what gaps need to be fulfilled. All right, we have 8 minutes left on this. And on our time, we have 2 minutes left in our calendar invite, but 8 minutes left in this room. So I want to give time for if anybody has questions, comments, or concerns, knowing that you're always welcome to DM us if you need time to process or think about all that was shared today. And know that I'm a former educator, so wait time is totally fine with me. I can sit and be quiet for a very long time.
I want to say hi real quick because I'm super thankful. I'm Marco Lopez, one of the board members of the of Techqueria, and super thankful for Alexis and Jolise and all the work that they've done. Obviously, Alexis really held the the fort for quite a while, and now that Jolise is in, it's been just a night and day. And although it doesn't seem that we've had a ton of, like she mentioned in the beginning, a lot of changes, we have, but the community continued to stay strong, and now with her leadership, we're super excited. So I think that today's discussion, it's perfect to kind of set the tone, to reaffirm and and validate our values, and just welcome everybody. I'm so happy that this continues to be a force to reckon with. So thank you, Jolise. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you so much, Marco. And shout out to Marco. He's been part of our board and supporting the process of getting me hired and really supporting Techqueria growing along the way as well. And yeah, y'all, massive shout outs. I know I see that you all have been really lovely in the chat, but massive shout outs to Alexis, who's been holding this down for like the past year on her own.
I guess I'm just gonna jump in. I just wanted to say first, thank you so much for creating this space and this community. I cannot tell you how helpful it has been for me as I've transitioned into tech and have successfully done so. So especially with the product sub team in the Slack group, it's super helpful. So I just wanted to make an offer. I know that there is no, as far as I'm aware, I've been able to find out, there is no chapter for DC. And so I wanted to see if there was a need for leadership in DC. I'd be happy to volunteer and help kind of lead that and build that community. I know we do have a strong technology community here, and we do have a strong Latina community as well. So be happy to serve as a kind of coordinator and try to kind of get that chapter going. And just asking for kind of instructions on how you would prefer that we either submit an application or apply, express interest formally. So yeah, but thank you.
So much. Is it pronounced Ileana?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Ileana. And that's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for putting it out. We are so excited when folks really want to represent the areas that they are at. We have had a chapter in DC before. What we're doing right now is because we are reconciling our financial accounts, we want to make sure that we're able to support the chapters we have in place. So our accountants that we have are currently ensuring that we have our books balanced, so that hopefully by the end of the first quarter, we can come to you and be like, hey, we can support actually this many more cities in the next quarter. So currently we are having folks reapply for chapter directors in the current chapters, and new cities are TBD based on the information we get from our financials, because we want to make sure that whatever city is a chapter has the financial support and capacity, just like every other city that we already currently have. So yes, we'll reach out to you, but give us a moment to get our ducks in a row so that we can have our Ferris wheel run well.
That's fair. Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Brenda, I see your question. How many people do we need to have in a city to form a chapter? So we do appreciate that there's at least 3 people who are willing to be chapter directors per city. So it's not necessarily the amount of people in a city, it's about like who's available to actually coordinate events, because that coordinating events, even if it's just once a quarter, still takes a lot of work. Anytime. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody's question. Yeah, I did see the lack of DEI investments is definitely also something that's of concern, which is why it's really important that we diversify our fundraising, and make sure that we're a self-sustaining organization, that no matter what happens with companies, we can still move forward and support our people, because that's at the end of the day. Maricela, it doesn't have to be a city, right? SF was archived. So SF was archived because they just do the Bay Area as a total region. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a full city.
Yeah.
I know,
And it was just, yeah, it's because it's huge. It's a massive channel now.
Yeah. So like another place that I could see being similar to that is like a Dallas-Fort Worth area, where it's just a big area that has a lot of folks.
I have something real quick. So in terms of diversity of the different people within the organization, one thing I think would be really helpful in supporting all of our businesses is, and it's something that I slacked you, but I'm sure like with everything that you've been putting together, you haven't had a chance to get back to me. But for those of us that are independent and contractors, and I'm happy to help put this together, but just a really simple Google sheet that lists all of the different services that we provide and the ways to contact us, because I think that not only can us solo entrepreneurs and contractors work together and bring each other into different projects, but if, larger organizations are looking to contract, so I do copywriting, content marketing, strategy, and things like that,